Mm, 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 So good to be seen, and it's even better to see what's going on. Welcome back to yet another video. In today's episode, I'm going to help you decide whether you should market yourself in terms of elopements or in terms of weddings. We're going to be talking about the main differences between the two, as well as giving you both pros and cons joined with examples. So having said that, whip out a piece of paper, take some notes, grab some coffee, get your favorite snack. This is all about education today. The first talking point that I want to bring to your attention is event duration as well as time commitment. One of the very first things to consider is the duration of these events. Elopements are typically shorter, lasting anywhere between 2 to 4 hours. These intimate affairs often require less of a time commitment, which makes scheduling more flexible for us photographers. Let me give you an example. Imagine an elopement on a cliffside at sunset. You meet the couple at a trailhead, hike with them to the location, capture the ceremony and a few post-ceremony portraits, and wrap up just in time for golden hour. The entire event lasts around 3 hours and you're done for the day. Weddings, on the other hand, can last anywhere between 8 to 12 hours, covering the full day from the couple getting ready to the grand exit at reception. Here's an example for that. Take a traditional wedding where you start with the bride's makeup at 9 a.m., photograph the ceremony at noon, capture family portraits, the reception, and the couple's first dance, and finally end around 10 p.m. after the guests have left. You've been on your feet for 12 hours straight, documenting each moment. In other words, if you are one of those photographers who loves to do in and out stuff, then elopements are definitely for you. But if you are one of those photographers that don't mind separating an entire day for something like a wedding, then obviously that is where you're going to lead. The second point that is worth discussing is client budget as well as profitability. Elopements tend to have smaller budgets since they're more intimate and don't involve as much extravagance. While this means we might earn less per event, the simplicity often leads to fewer overhead costs. No second shooters, fewer deliverables, and less time spent in post-production. For example, you're hired to do a shoot at a simple elopement in a national park with just the couple and their officiant. They're on a modest budget, so there's no second shooter or videography package. The couple only wants digital photos, a few by that, meaning your editing workload is lighter and post-production is faster. Weddings, on the other hand, usually come with larger budgets. This opens up more opportunities for upselling services like engagement shoots, albums, and extra hours. An example of that might be that for a full-scale wedding at a luxury venue, the couple books an all-day package with you, along with engagement photos and a custom-designed wedding album. They want a second shooter to capture different angles as well as extra images for a multi-gallery delivery. This higher budget increases your overall profit, but also comes with more work. In layman's terms, elopements usually require less work, but they are going to be a lot less profitable when it comes to actually putting money in your pocket, which is what we do as photographers. On the other hand, if you lean towards weddings, that means that the bookings might be a little far and fewer in between, but the profitability factor obviously increases because of the magnitude of the event. Let's now go ahead and pivot to point number 3, which is logistics as well as moving parts. Elopements are simpler by nature. They mean fewer guests, fewer vendors, and fewer logistical moving parts. This means less stress for both the photographer as well as the couple. Let me give you an example. Picture an elopement where it's just you, the couple, and their officiant on a remote beach. There's no need to coordinate with a DJ, florist, or caterer. It's all about capturing the quiet, intimate moments of the ceremony and the couple's portraits afterwards. Weddings, however, involve a lot more coordination. We often work alongside several vendors, managing timeline, group shots, and multiple locations throughout the day. An example, at a wedding, you're juggling timelines with the planner, ensuring the bridal party is ready for group shots, coordinating with the caterer to avoid shooting during dinner, and working with the DJ to be prepared for the first dance. The whole day is a careful balancing act. So what does this mean? Elopements are, for the most part, have a lot less moving parts, which means that the stress level is a lot lower. A wedding, on the other hand, does have a lot more moving parts, which means that your stress level is going to increase. At the end of the day, this is something that you have to balance out for yourself and figure out just how much juggling you want to do while capturing moments as a photographer. Point number 4 that I want to bring to your attention is both creative freedom as well as style. As photographers, we all crave a little creative freedom. Elopements often provide that freedom. Since they're smaller and more personal, couples often choose unique or adventurous locations like mountaintops or beaches, which opens up a world of possibility for creative shots. Examples: you're photographing an elopement in the mountains. The couple is open to adventurous shots, so you suggest a few creative ideas, like a wide shot of them standing on the edge of a cliff with the landscape spread out beneath them. With no tight timelines, you have the freedom to experiment with light and angles. Weddings, however, follow a more structured format, with traditional elements like the ceremony, group photos, and reception. While there's still room for creativity, the formality can feel a bit more restrictive. For example, at a wedding, you might spend a good chunk of time capturing traditional moments like the processional, the first kiss, and family portraits. You still have creative opportunities like playing with lighting during the first dance, but you're working with a tighter, more predefined structure. As a photographer, you need to understand if you like to adhere to a fixed schedule and you like to have control over the environment, or if you're more of a spontaneous and creative photographer who is sort of hampered and burdened by timelines and you prefer to have a little bit more control over the time. Client expectations and emotional involvement is the 5th talking point, and one that is definitely worth discussing. For elopements, clients tend to be more relaxed and have fewer formal expectations. They're often looking for an intimate experience, which means less stress for us photographers. For example, during an elopement, the couple tells you they want to feel spontaneous and free-flowing. There's no strict timeline, and they're happy with candid shots and moments that feel authentic. The emotional tone is light and intimate and feel like you're sharing in their personal adventure. Weddings, however, come with high stakes. Clients expect us to capture every detail, every key moment, and every emotional interaction. There's way more pressure to deliver a comprehensive set of images. For example, at a wedding, the bride has a detailed shot list including specific family groupings and decor shots. She expects you to capture every detail, from the lace of her dress to the moment when she walks down the aisle. There's more emotional intensity, and you can feel the weight of responsibility to get everything just right. This isn't to say that elopements don't carry a fair amount of stress, because they do, but they pale in comparison when it comes to a wedding. So if you find yourself having bouts of anxiety or get a little bit the jitters or nervous when it comes to your photography, then definitely lean towards elopements way more than weddings. Now, regardless of which one you end up choosing, we have to inevitably discuss both travel as well as locations. Elopements often take place in breathtaking, off-the-beaten-path locations. Think national parks or secluded beaches. This can be an exciting perk for photographers who love to travel, but it might come with logistical challenges. For example, you're hired to photograph an elopement in Iceland. The couple wants to exchange vows at a remote waterfall. You'll hike a bit to reach the location, and you might need to deal with unpredictable weather. But the result? Stunning, one-of-a-kind images in a beautiful setting. Weddings, on the other hand, are more venue-focused, whether it's a church, a vineyard, or a resort. Like, for example, you're shooting a wedding at a luxurious estate in Tuscany. While the location is beautiful, you're working within the boundaries of the venue and coordinating with the staff. The logistics are more straightforward than an elopement, but the environment is more formal. So when it comes to this talking point, think of it as being in a bubble. If you are shooting weddings over elopements, then you're going to have to stay within the confines of that bubble and find ways to get creative within it. Whereas if you are leaning more towards elopements, this means that you have the ability to pop that bubble and think outside of the box, both for you as well as your couple. Now, we can't talk about nuptials photography without post-processing, and that is exactly the next talking point. When it comes to post-production, elopements typically involve fewer images, which makes the editing process quicker and easier. For example, after an elopement, you have a few hundred images to cull and edit. The ceremony and portraits are the main focus, so your editing workload is light and you can deliver the gallery in a few days. The couple is thrilled with the quick turnaround. Weddings, however, generate thousands of images. Between the ceremony, reception, and all the in-between moments, the editing process is much more intensive. For example, for a wedding, you return home with easily 2,000 images. Sorting through the day, editing formal portraits, candid moments, and details takes weeks. There's a lot of work involved in delivering a comprehensive gallery, and you need to be mindful of client expectations for quality and timing. So it's safe to say that when you're shooting elopements, your workload is going to be a hell of a lot lighter than a wedding, whereas a wedding is going to be far more monumental than any elopement. So you have to ask yourself just how much post-processing time you're willing to allocate for a elopement versus a wedding. And finally, perhaps the most important, at least for me, is the fact that you're going to inevitably have some sort of a relationship with your clients, and they have different tiers depending on which one you lean towards. Elopements allow for a closer, more personal connection with the couple because the event is so intimate. For example, after spending a few hours with an elopement couple in a remote location, you become more than just a photographer. You're part of their intimate day. You get to know their story, share moments of joy with them, and build a deeper connection. They might even recommend you to friends or hire you again for other life events. Weddings, on the other hand, involve more people, family members, bridal parties, and guests, so the relationship with the couple may feel less personal. For example, at a wedding, you spend a lot of time coordinating with the bridal party, interacting with vendors, and making sure you're in the right place at the right time. While you still build a rapport with the couple, you're balancing your time between them and all of the other moving parts of the day. So speaking from experience, I literally just shot an elopement with a couple that came to Puerto Rico by way of Houston, and now we have built such a nice friendship, I want to say, that they're even considering flying me out to Houston for their wedding next year. So there's that. And at the same time, this isn't to say that you can't do this with a wedding couple, because I have had, for example, my Indian wedding from 2023, where they're now calling me and telling me that they became parents and sharing pictures of their newborn with me. And that's also to say that you can build a meaningful relationship with your clients. So there you have it. Those are the main differences between elopements and weddings and the pros and cons of shooting one over the other. Me personally, if I had to choose right now, I would definitely lean towards elopements because I can reinvent the wheel and give it my own spin, as well as sell myself to the point where I can actually make them profitable and not have to deal with the excess baggage that comes with weddings. Now, this isn't to say that I'll stop shooting weddings, because they do have their pros as discussed in this video. But at the end of the day, I am more of a cozy and intimate person, and relationship building is one of the most important talking points that I've discussed in this video, at least for me as an artist and as a photographer. But curious minds want to know, what would you shoot moving forward? Do you lean towards elopements or do you lean towards events? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If you've got a little value out of this video, you know what to do. And if you want to stick around and learn and grow as a photographer with entertainment as well as education at the same time, stick around by subscribing. I would love to have you. My name is Francis, and I will see you tomorrow.